I gave my thoughts and my opinions on the PlayStation Showcase, which I think was very much lackluster and something that didn't go over very well in terms of what gamers wanted to see. For something that Sony labeled Phase 2, we didn't really see much. And I think that if that is indeed Phase 2, then the PlayStation 5 could be in trouble like we haven't seen before. Obviously, gamers are going to still flock to the PlayStation 5 because it's called PlayStation 5. And obviously, again, people have sort of an affinity for PlayStation, especially worldwide, but we could see some disconnect and some discontent with gamers in general, where their hardcore gamers are concerned and unhappy with the offerings from PlayStation. See, I get called a lot of different names doing the videos that I do. A lot of people think that I'm just a crazy fanboy, but the actuality is, in 2018, I said, listen, Microsoft's new studios that they buy and purchase, we're not going to see any of these new games or the offerings from these games until 2023, 2024 at the soonest. And everybody turned on me and started hating me. They thought that I was, turning on Xbox, or that I didn't like Xbox. It wasn't that I didn't like Xbox. It was that you don't have to be an insider to put two and two together. Just like I did with Sony. Listen, you can go to the LinkedIns, you can check when these people were releasing games, and even though a lot of these studios may have, quote, two, even three teams or three projects, the harsh reality is that we rarely ever see these other projects ever come to fruition, because studios are always working on multiple projects. What I mean by that is, and a good example would be, let's look at the Coalition they do the Gears of War games for Microsoft. Now, the Coalition do Gears of War, but they were also working on a brand new IP, and that was never officially announced, and then that new IP was canceled before we even knew it was announced. This type of stuff happens in the industry literally all the time. So when people think that, there's all these different games being worked on, it's not exactly the way that you think. They're working on concepts, they're working on different things like that. A lot of these concepts will get thrown away and never be announced. So again, when you see stuff like this, or you see, okay, well, they released The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020, right? And they're working on the Factions multiplayer, and we haven't seen anything except for concept art for that, and they still didn't announce it at the PlayStation Showcase. This thing is having some trouble. They're doing their first live service game. Obviously, some things could be up, but again, you're not going to see a Ghost of Tsushima 2 anytime soon. The last one was released in 2020. They did a big DLC for it. Obviously, it's going to take some time to kind of come out. Now, Microsoft brutally responded to Sony's showcase with their own announcement, and that announcement was that 12 of these games that Sony showed are actually coming to Xbox as well. And I thought that was a brilliant strategy on their part, because in the past, gamers were confused about what games were going to come to Xbox, what games weren't coming to Xbox, and they made it crystal clear. So the best games that Sony showed yesterday are all coming to Xbox. I mean, minus Spider-Man 2. Clearly, that's a PlayStation exclusive, but Microsoft made a brilliant move, a savage move, if you will, to inform players that a dozen of the games featured in Wednesday's PlayStation Showcase are also coming to Xbox. Now, Sony's big product showcase included new game reveals, as well as release date announcements and some fresh trailers. As is the norm for these type of events, the trailers that Sony released to accompany each announcement advertised the games to be coming to PlayStation systems, but omitted if they'd be available on rival platforms. Obviously, that's what they're going to do. But in a absolutely brilliant, magnificent tweet following the show, Microsoft made it clear that many of these games featured are multi-platform and headed to Xbox too. These include Alan Wake 2, which looked really good, although this is only getting a digital release on all platforms. No physical release, digital only, but they are keeping it at the $60 price point, and that's one of the reasons why they are making it digital only. But still, this is a bit shocking to me, and a lot of people are kind of up in arms about this, so we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, that's a weird flex. That's a weird move. Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I think looks great. It might be the first Assassin's Creed that I actually get back into in a very long time. I used to love the Assassin's Creed games. Then they started doing these big open world ones, and I liked them. I think they looked gorgeous, but there was far too open world for them and too much to do. I'm glad that this is going to come out, kind of scale it back to what we used to know. Cat Quest, Dragon's Dogma 2 was a bit of a surprise, and again, that's coming to Xbox. Ghost Runner 2, Immortals of Avium, Marathon. Now listen, people want to know my thoughts and opinions on Marathon. I knew that Bungie's future games would all come to Xbox because that's what they said when Sony purchased them. It's probably in their contract that all their games are going to be multi-platform. So again, it's so weird to me that this game is, something that people are excited about. It's an extraction shooter. Is this like a new thing? Like, I don't get it. I don't get the appeal to these. I'm not interested in it at all. But, more power to the people that really like this stuff. Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. Again, this game is coming to Xbox. Neva, Teardown, The Plucky Squire, and the Talos Principle 2. First-party PlayStation games announced look to be set exclusive on PC and PS5 are Fair Game, an original heist IP from Haven Studios. Again, so generic. Why are they announcing generic games like a heist IP? And Concord, a PvP multiplayer first-person shooter that's in development at Firewalk Studios. So we didn't see any actual gameplay, but they look super, super generic. And I can imagine that people are thinking, hey, these are pretty generic looking games. At the end of the day, same thing for like anything else that's kind of going on. I just think that there is a sea of these multiplayer type games, right? There's just a sea of these, and they rarely ever hit on anything, so to speak, right? Because you're already kind of going up against the Fortnites of the world and, and stuff like that. So, yeah, I do think that it is a little bit strange that that's happening. And at the same time, people kind of are, I guess, agreeing with me with this. It is, that Sony kind of crapped the bed a little bit with their announcements. It's unfortunate that this is happening, but again, I'm all on Microsoft for going out there and doing this. People were saying that Microsoft was being petty or that Microsoft was being immature. How is that immature, but Sony crying over Call of Duty not, right? And I guess looking at their Phase 2, it makes sense that Microsoft is out here kind of taking advantage of that. You've got to be able to be quick-witted and think on your feet a little bit when it comes to these type of things, because that's what Sony did in the past to get Microsoft in trouble with the Xbox One. So it is nice to see that, Microsoft is going out there and making sure that people know what's coming to the system. And at the same time, I think stick it to Sony just a little bit. And I have no problems with that whatsoever. I actually would love to see Microsoft do a little bit more of this in the future. You don't have to hate Sony, but I think you have to go out there and make sure that, gamers know what's coming to the platform, because Sony will be sneaky. Like, if they're going to be sneaky, then why not go and do something? And how is letting people know what games are coming to your platform, how is that a bad thing or a cheeky thing or a immature thing? I don't understand that. Like, I'm sure Sony will probably do something similar, and there's a good amount of games that'll come to PlayStation that Microsoft announces at their showcase. But why is that? Why do people look at this stuff as such a bad thing? I honestly do not understand it. I for the life of me, I cannot understand why people are absolutely against this stuff. It doesn't really make sense to me. I'm glad that Microsoft did this. I hope that they continue to fight, and I hope that they continue to kind of lay it on Sony, because Sony has left the door open for Microsoft to go out there and do some really, really cool things. I think that's the main thing. You have that door, that little area open to go out, attack it, show some great games, give some release dates, show some footage, because Sony uncharacteristically was like showing CGI and things like that. That's stuff that they normally avoid. So yeah, I hope that they go out there and crush it, let everybody know what's up. Again, I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews. I'll link this in the description. What do you all think about this? Did Sony really let you down? Are you looking forward to what Microsoft has to offer? Are they going to save the announcement season? Phase 2, my ass. That was garbage. Let me know what you think. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.